Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We are here today on our Total Wellness Tuesday episode. Looking forward to talking with you about what I believe is one of the missing ingredients. It's a mineral, but I believe it's one of the missing ingredients to being able to solve a lot of these viral and post-viral inflammatory issues. And so I want to go over that today. The reason why I wanted to go over this and why I believe it's so important is that I'm still getting a lot of questions on my weekend Ask Cabral house calls where people are saying, I'm still feeling fatigued post-virus. I still don't have my smell back. I still don't have my taste back. I'm still a little bit nauseous. I feel a little inflamed, right? So I want to go over a lot of what I would call first principle thinking. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about first principle thinking over the next couple of weeks and making sure that we really understand what that means and why it's a cornerstone of a practice like mine. And of course, my practice is not the only one that does this, but I want you to understand that there are so many health practitioners out there, functional medicine doctors, whatever it might be, and you have to understand what it is that they stand for before you go to meet with them. Because a lot of times, a functional medicine doctor, and again, like that, who knows even what that means anymore? It's almost like paleo. Well, like paleo now includes beer, or Paleolithic people drinking beer. It's like, so we have to understand is what does this even mean? So you just want to know about the doctor's philosophy or the integrative health practitioner's philosophy. And so, a lot of functional medicine doctors, you'll go to their office and they'll run blood work, which again, nothing wrong with that. I run my blood work twice a year. I think you should run your blood work. And what they'll do is they'll give you a plan just based on your blood work. And a lot of times it's hormone-based therapy. Well, again, there might be a time and place for that, no doubt about it, only if you've exhausted all other methodologies. But the problem with only running blood work is that all you see is what's wrong with the blood, which is a homeostatic fluid, which means that if your blood needs calcium, like at a baseline level to stay within range, it's going to break it down from your bones. That's an easy place to get calcium. Of course, you can get it from other places, but that's your largest storehouse. Okay, well, what if your blood needs more healthy fats? Well, your body will actually break down organ tissue for some of those healthy fats. And again, I could go on and on with all these different parts of how your body regulates. Let's look at blood sugar, right? So all these people on super low carb diets for life and keto diets for life, and then all of a sudden they get into a more stressful situation or a hard workout and they're on a really low carb diet and they believe that they're somehow going to be able to produce anaerobic energy just with ketones and with burning lipids or body fat. And the truth is that's not happening. So your body says, okay, we're dipping into dangerously low blood sugar here. So what we're going to do is go after liver glycogen. And so I've got my little model here. And so the body starts to break down stores of sugar essentially as glycogen. Glucose is glycogen in the liver. Oh, but you say those are depleted because I've depleted those and I've become fat adapted. Again, I'm kind of tongue in cheek here a little bit right now. But your body then says, okay, well, we'll find sugar elsewhere. And luckily, the muscles store the largest amount of sugar, although it's not used as much because what we need to do is actually go through more of a catabolic process to break down some of this muscle tissue. So now what happens? Well, the person starts becoming more catabolic. They actually start losing muscle. And you might say, well, that's good because I don't want all this muscle. And the truth is, though, that's short-term thinking because what happens then is your metabolism goes lower and lower and lower. So now you have to eat less and less and less or you'll start to gain more weight. So again, when we look at things, we want to understand what is the overall philosophy. And I want you to know that when you work with a lot of integrative health practitioners, they're looking at multiple modalities. They're saying, let me look at nutrition. Let me look at a urine-based sample, a hair-based sample, a blood drop-based sample for hormones. And you want to look at the entire body as a whole. And then you want to say, okay, what can we fix with diet and exercise and stress reduction and toxin removal and rest and emotional balance and supplements and that success mindset that I talk about in the rain barrel effect. And that's the de-stress protocol that we use. And most everything can be accomplished just with that. There's very little need for any other intervention. So, It's one way of looking at things. And again, I know that people have different ways of looking at things, and I respect all those different ways. But when you begin to look at like, what is the underlying root cause, and you look at it from multiple ways, you're able to eventually figure it out. And I've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate that you have to ask why and why and why and why and why until you can't ask why anymore. So if you're a practitioner out there, and I know we're fortunate to have about 25% to a third of our listeners are all practitioners, which is great. So in your practice, let's say you're a medical doctor right now listening to this. We have a lot of medical doctors as well. And someone comes into your practice and you want to go above and beyond. You don't want to just prescribe a statin because they have high cholesterol. Now, I understand insurance and liability and all that. You probably have to prescribe the statin. Okay, so you prescribe the statin. Their cholesterol was 260. You want to get it down below 200, let's say, for total cholesterol. You want their LDL below, let's say, 110. So, okay, you do that, you prescribe the statin, but maybe you want to go above and beyond because you know that they don't have high cholesterol because of a statin deficiency, right? So you say, well, what would be the underlying root cause? And now the typical cop-out is just, well, I have bad genetics. And again, I get it. I understand that. I'm genetically prone to high cholesterol. When I started running my blood work a lot with doctors when I was 17 and very, very sick, I had high cholesterol even at 17, and I had low HDL, which is terrible, right? Because then you have a really bad cardiovascular profile because you have high total cholesterol, high LDL, and then you have lower of the anti-inflammatory HDL. So it's like not a good situation at all. But of course, I shouldn't say of course, because they'll probably do it today, but 20 plus years ago, they're not prescribing a statin to a 17-year-old typically. So what we have to look at, though, no matter what the age, and again, genetics is not the answer because at some point you didn't have high cholesterol most likely, so there was some trigger within your body that allowed for that high cholesterol. But if you're a first principles thinker and you're asking why, you're saying, well, why does this person have high cholesterol? And you say, well, they have poor genetics. Okay, so they have poor genetics. Well, what set off then the genetics? And then you start to look at, was it the nutrition? And okay, well, why? Like, what about the nutrition set it off? Like, oh, this person has multiple food sensitivities. They don't do well processing these certain types of fats. So you start to ask, again, why? All you're doing is going down through it. Like, are they doing the typical things for good cholesterol? Are they exercising? Oh, this person's not exercising. Okay, well, we need to do that. We need to work on stress reduction. High levels of cortisol can create more inflammation in the body. That could create higher levels of cortisol as well. So again, you're always asking why until you can't ask why anymore, but then you're also putting that to the test. That's the other part that we kind of forget. And again, like that, this is why I love mixing research with clinical practice. So we have brilliant people out there that are PhDs and they spend a lot of their time in the lab and they work through lab-based theories, essentially. If I were to do this, does it come true in the lab? Yes or no? And sometimes it's done through surveys, through larger parts of the population. But what clinicians are also able to do is look at that research, but then run it through, yes, but does it work in the real world? And does it work when there's multiple other factors at play? So that's why I love both. And you really do need both. You can't just go by research, and you probably don't want to just go by a clinician's philosophy as well. So we look at both, right? We look at Ayurvedic-based principles and all the ancient-based healing modalities, and then we look at state-of-the-art research. So when it comes to this particular virus that we're talking about, right, we can actually say the name of the virus now because, well, things seem to be on the way down, which is, good news, right? Good news. But we can talk about COVID, this particular virus, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, whatever name that you want to give to it, that feels good, that works, right? But when we start to use first principles with this particular virus, there are multiple factors. Don't get me wrong. Like, we know that melatonin works. We know that omega-3s work. I'll link up previous podcasts on this for the virus. We know that vitamin D, vitamin C work. So all of those things are very interesting. They're very interesting to me. They all work. Why? Because for the most part, if we look at it, well, vitamin C is a pretty big component of the immune system, right? Vitamin D, a big component of the immune system. Both of those things help to regulate healthy levels of inflammation. Melatonin, well, what does that do? Well, it helps put the body in more of a healing-based process, definitely helps with inflammation. Definitely helps get the body more in a parasympathetic nervous system to be able to heal and regenerate at night. So again, all of these things are interesting. But one thing that is overlooked and might be the key factor. Again, you can't use just one thing. I don't believe in the silver bullet method to anything. If you have cardiovascular issues, there's not one thing. If you have high blood pressure, there's not one thing, right? I teach these things in my health results accelerator. If you have thyroid issues, there's not one thing. Like it's typically not, oh, I'm low in selenium, and then you take some selenium and you fix your thyroid. It's typically not that. You got lucky if that was the case. However, I do believe there's a hierarchy of things, right? There's a hierarchy of things that typically cause these issues. So what I want to share with you today, and I know I've taken a little bit getting there, but I believe I had to with good reason, is to understand that sometimes when you are able to push one domino, it has a very large effect on the other dominoes that fall in line. And I believe there's one mineral that's just greatly overlooked in natural health and conventional medicine as well for this particular virus. And again, you know that I can't treat disease, prescribe anything, treatment protocols, diagnose disease, all the different things that the FDA doesn't want us to do. And so we're not doing that on this show. But there is one mineral that I think is profoundly being overlooked. And I want to take you through essentially 5 different reasons to 6 different reasons as to why I believe it's probably the key nutrient holding a lot of people back from recovering when they have the particular virus, as well as recovering from the post-inflammatory based issues. And that is zinc. So this is very important to look at it. There are different types of zinc bound to, zinc picolinate, zinc gluconate, zinc citrate, zinc sulfate. I believe many of them are quite beneficial. You can use multiple forms if you'd like. We know that all of those are actually beneficial for the immune system. So let's just talk about zinc in general. Let's not talk about one particular form of zinc. Why am I coming to this conclusion? I'll tell you why. Because when we look at the people and the subsegments of people that are most affected, it's going back to zinc-based factors. Again, not silver bullet. I'm not saying that. You can't take zinc and not take care of the rest of your life, right? You need to get sleep, vitamin C, your vitamin D, your melatonin, all those great things. You have to do those things. You don't have to take melatonin if you're healthy. Like, there's no doubt about it, but you need to get the other factors in, right? You need to get your B vitamins, all the other cofactors that I've spoken about before. But why would zinc be towards the top of my hierarchy? Well, after doing a lot of research, I've started to look at all of these people that are not recovering, and they are also most susceptible. So let's start breaking it down a bit. When people, this was months ago, they started looking at blood types and blood type susceptibility, and they found that the blood type A seemed to be more susceptible to this particular virus, and they didn't fare as well, especially when compared to maybe someone like a blood type O. Well, again, what does all that mean? I get asked about the blood type diet all the time. Honestly, I think the blood type diet is one part of the overall holistic equation. You can't just follow the blood type diet or just do the blood type diet, because you'll eat foods in the blood type diet that are not good for you because they're food sensitivities. So there's no one end all be all. But let's look at blood type A's across the board. Typically, again, not all for one, but typically have lower levels of stomach acid. They do poorer digesting heavy protein-based meals. In Ayurveda, they sometimes correlate. This is not across the board, because again, this is not across the board, but oftentimes they could be more towards the Vata-based side or have weaker digestion, where the blood type O's can sometimes be stronger digestion, producing more stomach acid, and do better with a lot of meats and even some red meats in their diet. So this is interesting because, well, how does that affect zinc? Here's the thing. If you can't get enough protein in your diet, you're not going to have enough zinc for the most part. It's not across the board again, but I'm talking in generalities. The other thing is, if you have low stomach acid, you simply don't break down the zinc from all of your foods as well. And that's why typically less stomach acid, you're more catabolic, more digestive issues, poor absorption. So here's the other interesting thing. If you don't have great digestion, if you don't have good stomach acid, what also happens is this. You're not able to break down the zinc, but then the zinc's not able to help with the digestion, because zinc also helps with that stomach acid production and digestion. So it seems to be a little bit of a vicious cycle. Now, of course, you can use things like the daily digestive enzyme. You can use things like betaine, HCl, and pepsin, or you can just use digestive bitters or hot ginger tea or a little bit of Bragg's apple cider vinegar and some water at a meal, something that's going to stoke the digestion, right? And again, some people won't do well with apple cider vinegar, like myself, who's just more prone to histamines, but I'll do great with a daily digestive enzyme and some betaine HCl at a heavier protein meal. So again, we can mitigate these things, but it's just interesting to see that zinc might play into that equation. Lower stomach acid, poor digestion of zinc. It's just poor digestion of calcium, magnesium, zinc, B12. Those are underlying factors of people on what? Proton pump inhibitors, right? PPIs, and they're going to have less zinc. That's just the way that it works for human physiology. Okay, so now let's look at the next one. Why? And again, this somehow turned into politics, but there were thousands of doctors who have used hydroxychloroquine in the past, and they were getting great results. And then all of a sudden they would say that this drug, which is basically used all over the world, is this super harmful, it can cause heart attacks. In rare cases, it can cause heart-based issues. There's no doubt about that, rare-based cases. But I mean, used almost across the board with great results. Now, but again, let's say hydroxychloroquine isn't your thing, and I'm not even saying you need to use this because I'll give you another note in just a moment. That is not, should be your go-to. But ivermectin, I talked about this on a previous podcast as well with the whole conventional medicine protocol, as well as a natural protocol that you can be using before or if you were to get the virus. So, and again, I'm not giving you a treatment protocol, but I'm actually stating the treatment protocol now given by medical-based doctors. So I don't want to talk out of turn here. But here's the thing. Those products, especially the hydroxychloroquine and what, they're zinc ionophores. So what do? Well, many people, they're not understanding how a parasitic drug, these are anti-parasitic drugs, okay? So how is an anti-parasitic drug helping with the virus? Well, the virus is not necessarily a parasite, so why are these anti-parasitic drugs working? Well, there are people that believe, and this is very well researched, that hydroxychloroquine is a great zinc ionophore. And you might say, well, what's a zinc ionophore? And I'll link up today. Just go to stephencabral.com/1866. We'll link up the previous virus-based protocols as well as the all virus-based podcasts talking about zinc ionophores as well. Well, what they do is they actually shuttle zinc into your cells that might be infected by the virus to then stop viral replication and unravel to destroy the virus itself. That's what a zinc ionophore is. And so it's also why natural supplements, so we ask why. Why does quercetin seem to work? Why does EGCG from something like green tea seem to work? And again, I have a whole podcast on natural zinc ionophores that would be my go-to, right? So why do these things seem to work? Well, they take the zinc that's in your body and they shuttle it into the cells to, again, stop, destroy, unravel viruses. Pretty impressive. And then we know this from zinc in general. We know that zinc helps to destroy viruses. It's been clinically proven now. So very interesting to look at that. Now let's go to another one. So, but again, we're going back to zinc, and I'll talk about why those zinc ionophores might not be working as well. Well, let's talk about that right now. So let's say you're taking some of these things and you're taking the natural zinc ionophores. The body still may not have enough zinc. That's the issue. You can be taking zinc ionophores, but if you don't have enough zinc, well, you're not going to be able to shuttle enough zinc into the cells. So let's talk about that towards the end of the show in just a few moments. But why is there a higher rate of morbidity, of death with people with a lot of inflammatory issues, okay, or that are overweight or obese, or have diabetes? Well, we have to look at this. This is very interesting. This gets a little bit into the biochemistry of it. But when you have higher levels of glucose in your blood, maybe you're on a high processed food diet, maybe you just have higher levels of sugar in your blood because you're not able to process it as well, okay? Regardless, that leads to more inflammation. But also, that sugar, that glucose, that processed food, it needs to be processed out of the body. And the way that your body does that, it is actually converged. There's a conversion. So it's taking this glucose or carbs, processed carbs, and it's converting it and using carbon dioxide, okay? So how are we using this carbon dioxide? Well, we're huffing it out of our lungs. But the way that we're getting that, achieving the carbonic acid or the carbon dioxide itself is actually combining carbonic anhydrase with zinc to form carbonic acid. Now, again, all this means is this, is that you're actually breaking those things down into hydrogen and bicarbonate. And now you're able to excrete that through the kidneys, through the lungs. You're able to get this out of your body. But it does not happen as well without zinc. And so now I think we really should be looking at obesity and inflammatory-based health issues and blood sugar dysregulation as potentially having a lower functional level of zinc. And let me go back to that to kind of bring it full circle. A lot of functional medicine-based doctors may only run your blood work for zinc. And when they do that, they say, oh, well, there's enough zinc in the blood, but not in the tissues, not in the reserve. How do you find that? Well, you actually run something like a minerals and metals test. It's one of the reasons why we did that huge giveaway just a few weeks ago to try to get people to see their functional levels of zinc. You can also do blood spot test, urine test for zinc as well. All of those are great for your metals. So again, like I believe we need to start looking at this a little bit deeper. And the last thing I'll say is this: why are people post-virus, well, during the virus itself, but post-virus, myself included, why do you lose your taste? Why do you lose your sense of smell? Well, both of those things are directly correlated and been correlated for thousands of years, from Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. You look at ancient Greek-based medicine. A lack of taste, a lack of smell is a lack of zinc reserves in many cases. So all of the people, it makes total sense. The virus and your immune system used up your levels, functional levels of zinc at a tissue level at a much faster rate. All of a sudden, just like that, your taste is gone. Your sense of smell is gone. And it takes some time to come back. Why does it take some time to come back? Because you don't replenish at a tissue level your levels of minerals or vitamins right away. Let me repeat that. You can replace the blood levels of zinc or your vitamins within hours. Because all you do, and I wish I had my supplements right here, they're right over there, but I don't want to reach for them, a box of supplements that I take, right? My nutritional supplements, I take them every day. Here's the issue. Those things get into my blood, but it takes weeks and months for them begin to replenish at a cellular level, those levels of zinc and the levels of B vitamins, etc. That means that when the new cells are coming about 90 days, 120 days from now, it's at a much more robust level. Now, I got my taste back in about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks it took. At that time, I had an aversion for a lot of foods that I enjoyed. I talk about my one love, which is coffee, right? So when I talk about that, again, half kidding here, for my 1 cup of coffee in the morning, I couldn't drink coffee. It made me sick to my stomach just thinking about it. And then luckily it came back after about 3 weeks. Now, again, I don't think that I fully depleted my levels to a greater degree, but some people may. Right? Some people may. I'm a person that takes zinc every single day. I take it as part of my daily foundational protocol, but I take additional zinc every day because of that, because my body certainly depletes it at a faster level, especially given my particular dosha, my particular body type. And again, just using it for a busy, active lifestyle as well. So let's talk about this. Those people that have lost their sense of taste, lost their sense of smell, they might need to be on a zinc replenishing protocol for a good 3 to 4 months. That's just the truth. It may take 4 months until those cells and tissue turn over at a much deeper cellular level to really have adequate levels of zinc being able to use in the body. And again, don't ever overlook putting that zinc in on a daily basis is going to repair other processes, and is being used for things like digestion. It's being used for the hair, skin, nails. So you do need a good amount. Typically, we were recommending somewhere around 75 milligrams, maybe a little bit more when you were dealing with any type of virus. Again, I'm not giving you a treatment protocol. I want you to know that. But then post-virus, you might need a strong 50 milligrams a day for quite some time. And again, never use zinc by itself. You always want to make sure that you're getting a full spectrum of vitamins and minerals, because zinc over time will push down your copper levels. It will push down your iron levels. You always want to make sure you're taking a full spectrum. That's why we use the daily foundational protocol. And then you can use the balanced zinc on top of it, or the FM zinc on top of it as well. So again, but use what you feel comfortable with. The goal here today was to share with you, by using first principle thinkings and saying, why are blood type A's more affected? Why are these zinc ionophores working so well, conventional medicine based as well as natural product based? Why do we see more issues with the type 2 diabetes, the obesity, overweight, why we see people losing their sense of taste and smell. I think we can start to really begin to, as we ask why, we can see that zinc is playing a huge factor in this virus and post-virus as well. So hopefully today's show was helpful. Again, this is all based on your questions, and I do hope that this was helpful. Again, this show is all about you. Let me know how I can help. I really do want to help to the best of my ability. And of course, if this show was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. The show notes today are at stephencabral.com/1866. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing day.